What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Live Free Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Maxwell. Today's guest is Miss Jaclyn Rose. She joined us in-house for this episode. Local San Diego artist whose work I found out about a couple years ago, at least. We only just recently met at a mega drawing rally being held at the San Diego Art Institute space in Balboa Park. She makes really rad work. I refer to it as alternative. What was the phrase? I used a fucking phrase like alternative mediums. I've had some artists on the show who have used less traditional mediums to do sort of traditional work. So we'll get into that. Let's see, what else did we talk about? I wrote down a list of things we talked about. We talked about HGTV, Unfunny Happy People, Thinking Time, Internet Policy, Disinformation, Thrift Store Art, Rachel, Loudmouthitis, Burnt Bridges, Catholic Guilt, Public Peeing, So Drawing, Daffy Ducking, and Dirty Filthy Show. So, as always, make sure you go check out MikeMaxwell.com. You can click on the podcast there, and you can listen to episodes right through my website. I actually host. Whenever I tell people this, they look at me like I'm crazy, but I actually host all the files on my own website. A lot of people will use sort of outside, like SoundCloud or like other websites to host all the MP3s or whatever. I do that right through my site, so you can listen right there. You can listen on Stitcher if you don't like iTunes. And I've been in the process of uploading old episodes up onto YouTube. I don't know if you guys have checked that out. There's no video, but I make I post a bunch of their photos into the video, and it does a little like time lapse thing showing you their work. So if you want to be able to get some visuals of the work that's being talked about on the show, you can go watch the YouTube videos, or you can just play them and listen to them in the background just the same way as you would a podcast. And I try to get that stuff up there so that there's like an archive of it. Since I do host the site or the show on my site, if my site goes down, I guess like all that stuff would float off into the ether somehow. So I'm trying to get all that stuff up onto YouTube as a sort of a backup and another option for people who don't do the iTunes. I know I think it's been almost 2 months since the last episode. Apologies. I think it's probably going to be somewhere around. It's funny. I do an interview and then, or I say interview, but it feels more like a conversation. When I do them, I really enjoy it. The people who have the conversations with me seem to enjoy it, and the people out there listening like to enjoy it too. But in terms of time, I do this every fucking beginning. I would love to do them every day if I could. Unfortunately, I can't. So, and it's fun. It's really wrangling cats to get artists all together in one particular area to record something. So here's a new episode. I'll try to do another one within the month. What I was meaning to say is that I get like a sort of energetic value that it's like, oh, keep doing more, and then reality comes into play, and I realize that I have like 6 paintings that I need to finish in the next like 2 minutes, and yeah, so podcasts kind of get sidelined. I haven't been listening to a ton of Are you guys are still out there, right? You guys are still listening? Okay, good. All right. So Miss Jaclyn Rose is a badass motherfucker. She's making me a patch for my gi, which I'm super psyched on. And she's a really rad artist and a cool person. I said she might be a sort of female version of my personality, which is really strange to think about. But yeah, she's super cool, makes rad work, and we're going to get ready there's on October 18th, I believe, at La Bodega Gallery is the Dirty Filthy show, which I will be having some pieces in, which I'm going to start working on today as soon as I'm done with this intro. So I should probably stop talking and make some more art. So, like I said, check out MikeMaxwell.com. Click on the podcast. Get all the information over there. It's a PayPal link if you want to donate to the podcast. Thanks to my dude Adriel for dropping a dime on the podcast. This episode is sponsored by him. So, shit, I should try to go find his website really fast. Just talk amongst yourselves. Or just with yourself. Check him out on... I don't know what his Facebook is. Or his website. But you can find him on Facebook, Adriel Restrepo. And I'm probably not enunciating his name properly. It's a difficult name. But it's ADRIELRESTREPO. Check out his stuff. He makes a bunch of cool psychedelic art that you might be into. So, shout out to him, and let's fucking jump right in. Oh, shout out to producer Lex who came through with the extra mic. Hopefully you're listening to this episode in headphones. When I was recording, it seemed to record a little bit low, and of course I'm loud as shit. So Jaclyn's voice came out a little low, but when I listened to it in the headphones, sounded just fine. So if you're listening to this episode, throw on some headphones, and hopefully everything comes through sweet and great. All right, good. So without further ado, Miss Jaclyn Rose. All right, we may or may not have had some technical difficulties there.
You just cut in and out of my headphones.
Again, with the technical difficulties. Is that any better?
Yeah, you're in there now.
Okay. Everything's starting to fall apart on me here. I've reached a point where all technology is starting to become outdated way faster than I have the capabilities of updating it.
Yeah.
And this seems to be a problem. Like, my computer is... It's the fucking future. It should be able to work just fine. But it's
only designed to work for 2 years.
It's planned obsolescence for sure. But it's like the fucking... I mean, if you look at behind me and see my TV, I still have a fucking humongous box TV.
That's awesome. Yes.
It works fine.
Yeah.
Except for now, like, sometimes some shows are on the widescreen format, and, like, I get a little bit cut off because it's square. Yeah. It's like Instagram over there.
Hate the way that... I don't have a television, but I hate the way that the HD TV looks. I think it looks like everything's shot in awful handheld reality TV.
Yeah, It's
gross. It's too real.
I like the fact that celebrities aren't looking like celebrities.
That's true. I like that as well.
Like, they're getting, like, knocked down to, like, us regular folk status because it's like, you don't have all, like, the film tricks to, like, and they all hate it. Same with the porn stars. They're not too happy about the HD as well.
Really?
Yeah.
They're so plasticized anyway, though. They should be fine with
So I have no idea where we stopped at, or
we may be starting over.
I know we are starting over. It's very likely
awesome
that the first 11 minutes could be gone. If it is, it's gone. It's in the fucking ether.
Yeah.
It's out there. We have it in our brains, but so, like, I don't know. We don't really need to go back over what we went over already, just in case it still is actually there.
Yeah.
So, where did we start? What were we talking about when we, do you remember? It's so hard
I think we were talking about Lenny Bruce. And you were talking about painting him and how he ended up just reading law books on stage.
So I think I was giving some diatribe about being oneself.
Yes.
And using Lenny Bruce as one of those, like, starting points. And even, like, that's stand-up comedy. I've always thought of comedians as being, like, really sad. Mm-hmm. Like, I hear the sadness in it because I sort of understand where they're coming from, like the self-deprecation. And
happy people aren't funny.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Right.
People that don't have that inner voice that's constantly questioning them and criticizing them, those people aren't funny.
Yeah, and that's what we were talking about, like bipolarism, and like, there's something to the fact of when you take some time to focus on any sort of one particular aspect, you could get really mad about something, you could get really sad about something, you could get really happy about something, and that far stretch from one to the other seems to sort of be a common bond among people who are creative.
Yeah.
And I sort of, I'm no psychologist, but I tend to I tend to see that as being common amongst these people because of the amount of time like sitting and thinking. And it's funny, we were talking about cannabis before, and some of like the moments where you just sit and like stare and think about a subject for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if some of that plays into these things, to where you're sort of, almost placing yourself in one particular aspect of life, and eventually you're going to come out of that, as you come back into your position of life or whatever, in terms of just thinking. Does that, so let's see. So there's a lot of stuff that comes up a lot, like political stuff, like the way our country acts in other countries, like there's so much that drives people like me like insane. Yeah. And at the same time, it's like fucking there's nothing you could do about it.
There's nothing. I've stuck
except
my
for
head
like sit and think, right?
Yeah. Well, I used to listen to Democracy Now! Every day and listen to hours of NPR a day and feel enraged all the time.
I just posted a Democracy Now! Video this morning on Facebook.
I don't listen to it anymore.
Well, it was actually from 2007. It was the I forget her name, but I always listen
Amy
to
Grove?
her show. The brown-haired lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so terrible with names.
I just mixed Amy Goodman with Terry Gross, I think.
Yeah, you put two names together. Yeah. See, it's okay. Anyway, so like she had former General Wesley. I forget. I see it again. I'm not going to remember his name. But he talked about how there was a list of countries that we were going to invade in the next 5 years. Awesome. And we just started bombing Syria yesterday. Again. Well, we attempted to a year ago. And somehow the internet stopped that shit. Like, enough people complained and made a fucking fuss, right? Like, it sounds so strange to say. But that might be where we go. Like, the way public opinion works, like, public opinion might have more strength.
That would be awesome. The country with the most likes on Facebook gets their way.
Gets their way? Like, it's not unfathomable.
No, not at all.
And it's funny too, because I just watched this film called Mirage Men.
I haven't seen it.
It's on Netflix, documentary about not counterintelligence, disinformation, and like agents of disinformation who work within the military-industrial complex. Yeah. There was a group of people who had got some film footage of what later turned out to be like military vehicles, like what we see now, like drones. At the time that the guys were recording, the stealth bomber was being designed and made and tested, and they were crashing a bunch of them out in New Mexico. Yeah. And so a couple people who were very much into the whole alien and UFO extraterrestrial like community got like actual footage of some military experiments that they didn't want like the Russians or whatever, like foreign countries, to get information about whatever they were doing. So they have these people who work within the group who go and talk to these people who are like the fringe types, but who have like kind of a following, who seem to know a little bit of information, but like are more on the fringe aspect, and they start feeding them information, right? And so then those people like go to conferences and go to like these like meetings and things and start sharing this information that they got from the FBI and from official military sources. Awesome. They're making papers that they're bringing to them, and and so like a part of me thinks like, okay, we're all kind of figuring out that like everything is sort of manipulated, and if we get to a point where our Facebook likes, air quote or whatever, like actually like makes change within a government system, it seems crazy, but it could be a step forward.
It could,
because we're at a point where it's just basically a couple billionaires who are dictating policy.
Yeah, it's dysfunctional system, to say the least.
I don't, but, and that doesn't really have much to do with art. But I think in terms of like thinking about different subjects, and I know we were talking about like I just remember we were talking about how selling work, like giving up like explanations about things. I found that I could do like an anti-war piece, and have like pro-patriotism, like pro-war, like vet types who like want to buy the work.
It's the best. I've made really sarcastic technology jokes, and I sell them to people that are like, yeah, that's me. I'm like, and now I'm on your wall making fun of you in your house. Awesome.
Yeah. So that's what that was. So we were talking about like whether it's like beneficial or if it hurts you sometimes.
Yeah.
I sometimes think I just talk people right out of things if I divulge too much information.
Sometimes it's good to just keep your mouth shut and smile and nod. Yes, that's exactly what.
But it's important not to not be yourself. That's the point of today, I think.
I agree.
And sometimes if you don't like explain yourself, then maybe you're doing yourself a disservice in the long run.
Yeah.
Maybe. But sometimes it is funny.
It is funny to have your own message in that person's home.
Yeah, just be totally misconstrued.
Ideological standpoint.
And again, that's also the beauty of like making things that people can attach themselves to on some level of their own.
Yeah, you want people to have their own personal relationship with it, I think.
And that's what I would like. I know a lot of people get attached to their work. Once it's gone, and with the people who have it now, like it's about them. Like it's no longer like an attachment to self. It's like whatever their story is.
I know.
I do think about all the little pieces that are out there in the world.
Yeah, I do too. So many of mine have made their way to countries I haven't been to yet, and I'm jealous.
Right?
Yeah.
It's such a strange thing, especially like I know for me, like making things that are going to be here long after I die has for some reason been important. And of course that probably has some like fear of death, like wanting to be like something like historical or something. Yeah. Do you think that's another common bond among?
I don't know. For me, I always think of my stuff ending up in a thrift store and someone finding it and being like, what weirdo made this 50 years ago?
I've almost wanted to donate pieces to a thrift store just to make that happen a little faster. You have?
Yeah.
You're so rad.
I like the idea of it. Oh, but going back, I wanted to mention to you because I thought it was funny. We almost talked about it before we got on. We spoke about where my Instagram name came from.
Oh,
it's not my actual name.
Yes, I think that might be right when I looked down.
So people that I know in
So what is your Instagram name?
It's Rachmanis.
But spell it.
Rachmones.
I had it being almost like French.
Nice.
Like a Monet, but like that type of like enunciation on the S at the end.
Awesome.
But then it was also Rachmones.
Well, that's what I was trying to tell you. Yeah, very good friends of mine that I won't see for a while. I will see them, and they'll be like, "Oh, Rachel." Like, are you fucking serious? You've known me for years. But the internet has superseded your perception of me to the point where you are calling me Rachel. That's crazy.
Real?
That's
like
real.
People...
That's happened to me many times. It happened to me the other day at a friend's house where they were making me dinner. My friend's boyfriend walked in, who I've known for a long time. He's like, "Oh, Rach." I'm like, "Oh my goodness, this is hilarious."
And that goes back to the perception thing. Like it's
because that's who you become to that person, because that's where they're seeing you every day. They don't see you every day in real life, but they see you every day on the internet. In a way.
Yeah, so that becomes who you are. Like it's very, and this is something I've been a little bit concerned about. Because and again, back to being open and honest about your feelings, or your opinions or whatever. When at the drawing show, Terry Beth Mitchell came up. She's one of the artists that was drawing. Okay. She actually thanked me for some of like the stuff that I post. In terms of like maybe some things that are a bit more outspoken or like that go against the grain of like common, the common theme or whatever. And I have been concerned that like some of the things that I could say could be so brash or, like I'm typical to like question people's like strict opinion or like whatever, like their beliefs. And I know that has a tendency to alienate some people, and if no one wants to be told they're wrong, number one. Yeah. And a lot of times if you question somebody, the immediate assumption is that you're saying that they're wrong. Yeah. So I know from again, I'm not a terribly good business person
Me neither.
either. So like, I know that some of these things have affected me.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe somebody who is selling pizzas or whatever is going to be like, I'm going to play the game to get my money and do my thing. But a part of me feels like even the opinions that I put out like on Facebook or Twitter or whatever are still like part of the art.
Yeah. And it's hard too. I think you're opinionated as well. I'm
Yeah.
very opinionated, and you want to be yourself and be open, but at the same time, I don't want to alienate people. I think that's something I've more come to as an adult of thinking, oh, well, I want to give people my opinion, but I don't want to make anyone feel like their opinion is wrong, because they're not. Everyone's opinion is valid.
I'm pretty sure everyone's opinion is wrong.
I don't know. There are a couple of extremes, obviously, where if you hold this opinion, if you I don't even want to bring up the clearly wrong opinions, but other than that, I mean,
I
all
always bring up
subjective.
the Wu-Tang line that how could he know what the fuck he never knew?
Yeah.
And
that's a good one.
yeah, that's my compassion line.
Yeah.
That's my like empathetic, like you're exactly who you've become. Like, although I know there's personal responsibilities that we need to take for ourselves, but we're all exactly sort of who we're meant to be.
Yeah.
I don't really believe in like destiny or that sort of thing, but I've been coming to grips, and maybe the same thing with age, with like accepting people for who they are instead of. And it's funny that I'm talking about like so much about like being yourself and being honest and whatever, but still at the same time, on the flip side of the coin, like I'm super judgmental.
Of course.
Like particularly to people who are less considerate to others in our society.
Totally.
But a part of me still has to go back and be like, even like say like the most racist like Ku Klux Klan member.
Yeah, that person's opinion's not valid.
No, but at the same time, it's like, okay, you are who you are due to the circumstances from which you were born in.
Yeah.
And again, there's personal responsibilities. There's this sort of idea of like self-enlightenment, that you should be able to pick yourself up and look at yourself from outside.
Yeah.
But again, that's hard, and that goes back to like people not wanting to be wrong. Like,
Totally.
if you have this opinion of yourself that you're doing everything exactly how you should, it's sometimes more difficult to like question your own self.
Yeah, and then if I hate you for being a KKK member, then you've won, because you've taken your hate and incited hatred in me. So
yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. So a part of me is like, okay, like start to learn to accept people for who they are.
Yeah.
But there's still times it's like if somebody cuts somebody else off in traffic, like, or does something like that's a
of course you're
danger
like,
to other people.
Yeah.
Mostly inconsideration.
Yeah, I think you have a sense of self-righteousness, and so do I. You always want to, you're wrong, or you're not doing the right thing. I have.
There's got to be better angles, right?
Yeah.
Like better ways to address certain situations.
Yeah, well, I think that I have the inclination to be a little bullyish about it, and bullyish.
Confrontational?
I'm confrontational, to be honest. I know that some people aren't, and I'm kind of jealous of them for being non-confrontational.
Yeah.
I'm very confrontational.
In fact, at the drawing show, that was before we even said hello.
Oh yeah, that guy.
I had walked.
Me.
Yeah, I walked up, and I was taking a photo of you doing a drawing on your sewing machine. Do you call them drawings?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. And I could tell, like, I'm very good at reading body language from without hearing the words that are being said.
Yeah.
Something comes with like poker and like just
Yeah.
watching people in general, like you get the body language situation.
Totally.
And I could tell that something was not right. I could tell that the guy was really drunk too. He had that like stare through you sort of look.
Okay, yeah.
I've seen that shithead before.
I've
I don't know
never
where
seen
I've seen
him
that
before.
shithead. Probably at, like other shows or something. I've definitely, if I haven't seen him, I've seen his type. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he said something douchey to you, something
Several
shitty,
douchey things.
several douchey
Yeah.
things. And what I heard was like, I don't need to, like, I heard you like confront him on it, and I was like, fuck yeah. Like, and of course I didn't hear, and we don't even need to bring it up.
Yeah.
But like the idea that I saw you, like, I could tell that you were standing up for yourself and being like, I don't need your bullshit. Like, get the fuck out of my face. Like, as soon as I was like, fuck yeah, that's awesome.
I think that's why people tend to maybe think that I'm more aggressive or more of a bitch than I am is because I will tell someone like, no, shut the fuck up or whatnot.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
in general,
I'm
I think
surprised
I'm
you
a
haven't
nice
told me to
person.
shut the fuck up
No.
yet.
Not at all.
We're only 19 minutes into the second session,
Okay,
so
good.
we still got time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I think all that seems to sort of flow and come along with these like creative outlets.
Yeah.
So in case it's not on here, you do figurative work
I do.
using your sewing machine.
Mm-hmm.
What do you usually work onto canvas, or is it materials?
No, it's generally old tablecloths that I find at the thrift store. I use predominantly recycled materials. I can't use recycled thread anymore because it will break while I'm sewing, and that'll break my heart if I'm in the middle of a crucial line and the thread breaks. It's never going to be the same. So I've started to. I started a long time ago to use new thread, but otherwise, if I can, I try to use recycled materials.
Well, I find your work looks really difficult.
Thanks.
Like if and it's funny that the difference if you did like a line drawing with a pencil in the same way
it wouldn't be the same.
It would. There's definitely a different sense. So I'm curious what sort of led into that medium as opposed to something more traditional.
I was sewing dresses when I started doing that. So I was already sewing for 8 to 10 hours a day. I was all into making one-of-a-kind dresses out of recycled materials, and I was selling them. And some 2 guy friends of mine moved into a new house, and they needed curtains, and they bought some really awesome fabric. And I was like, oh, I'll sew it for you guys. And I took the fabric home, made them curtains and pillows, and had some leftovers, and thought, oh, I want to make my friends something cute for their house. And I made them a little doll. And for the face, I drew the face with my machine. And that was the first time that I did that, and it was really fun. And pretty much from then on, I just every day started trying to learn how to draw with my machine, and it snowballed from there.
But you got to work kind of fast, right? Like, I mean, it's funny. There's an interesting connection, and I actually brought this up. I brought it up to somebody, but there's an interesting connection to tattooing and sort of sewing. Like it has a similarity.
Really would like to learn how to tattoo, but I never.
It's fucking hard.
I've done some. I've done the work with homemade drunk whiskey guns, and I've done some stick.
That drives people who are like tattoo like purist types.
Yeah.
So crazy. Like all the stick and poke shit. Like I see so many like photos that pop up in the feed of people like pretending that a lighter on the end of a fucking needle is sterilizing something.
Oh yeah.
And then like no gloves, like their hand, you could see the dirt under their fingernails. I'm just like, you guys are so fucking disgusting, and you're all gonna get hepatitis.
It's so much fun though.
But that's just like, I did an apprenticeship when I was in downtown at a shop that's no longer. It's not the. There's a shop there, but it's no longer the same shop. But I did a full year apprenticeship and started tattooing. I was like, fuck this shit.
Oh,
I'm out.
The curvature of skin and the stretch of skin, I can't imagine. But
and you know it's weird, and I don't know. I guess for you have. I always bring this up. The real thing with tattooing is that there's no stopping point. So I guess for you probably feel the stopping point of the needle hitting the bottom side of the machine, right? Like it's not just a space. There's a stopping point.
No, that's happening. Yeah, I'm controlling the speed and the movement of the fabric, but it's going up and down on it.
Yeah, going in and out of skin, fucking gnarly, and like just a smidge off ruins the whole thing.
That's why I don't have any tattoos.
I've tattooed myself a bunch of times, but I was tattooing people, but I was doing like all the worst tattoos that came into the shop. Like that nobody wanted to do, and I was like, "Fuck
like the heart with
this
wings
shit!"
And
just the tribal bands.
Oh
and
yeah.
I think the first one I did was the women's bathroom logo, like the restroom logo.
Yeah.
It was not very good. I did I did some bad tattoos. I'm curious to see. Speaking of, we were talking about paintings that are floating around.
Oh goodness, you're just somewhere and all of a sudden it pops up, and you know you're responsible for that.
There's a couple. I tattooed my cousin. I got to see that one kind of regularly.
Yeah.
Tattooed my brother-in-law.
Do they like the tattoos? Because that's really all that matters.
Yeah. Everybody loves their tattoos.
Okay.
There's something that happens. It's a weird sort of exchange that.
Yeah.
Of course people have bad experiences, but if like you know your tattoo artist on some level,
Mhm.
like almost everything has like a sentimental value.
Yeah.
And there's something that happens that even if it's bad, you still kind of love it. Like all my bad tattoos, like I still kind of love them.
That's rad.
Because again, we talked about earlier, like the attachment to like, that's who you were, motherfucker. Like,
Yeah.
don't try to front and like you're somebody else and,
Yeah.
you know, act like you're cooler than that now or whatever.
I've always thought that eventually I'll start tattooing all my friends' works on me that I love,
Uh-huh.
just to have those people connected to me too. But then you and I were talking earlier about burnt bridges. I do have the slight fear of what if you get in a fight with that person,
Fuck
that person
yeah.
really dicks you over, and then you're stuck with that reminder.
You know what happens? It is whenever you see somebody with a full blacked out sleeve,
That's what
that's
happened.
exactly what happened. I've had a guy on the, Mike Egan was on the podcast, and he told the story. I'm fairly certain he told the story on the podcast.
Okay.
His girlfriend and his tattoo artist cheated on him.
Oh no.
So his whole sleeve was by a guy that he just and
That's horrifying.
yeah, something that you can go back and listen to that
oh
episode
man, I will.
to fact check. But
Oh.
but this is
So
something that
bad.
I've seen a number of times.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh my god, your whole arm is just black now because of. But sometimes they end up liking it, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
Sometimes I like the giant dark splotches
Yeah,
that people have. I think
again,
it looks neat.
whatever becomes like self-empowerment, I suppose is a beneficial thing.
Yeah, but even that black arm is a reminder.
Yeah, it's a reminder forever.
Ugh.
That's why it's important. I mean, things like that you could never really predict.
No, of course
Right?
not.
So it's like,
Yeah.
but as long as like the pieces have some sort of, and I think anybody could go get a tattoo of whatever they want, whenever they want, without any like attachment to it.
Mhm.
But the idea of having some sort of forethought into it, like,
Yeah.
and you don't. I hate talking about my tattoos. Like when people ask, "Oh, why'd you get that?" Oh, and it's the same thing like with the paintings. Like,
Yeah.
I think this thing, and then like I saw this, and you know whatever. I read this thing, but like people still fucking want to know.
Well, yeah, I think it's hard to not talk about people's tattoos to them when you're interested.
Yeah, but it's
always
still it's good
weird
to
for me.
it's good to have like a backstory. I think in terms of that thing of like people usually who cover their tattoos probably just got a tattoo for like external reasons for like what's the word I'm looking for? Just like a beauty thing.
Yeah.
You know, like fashion over function.
Mhm.
Where like and not to sound like I'm fucking high and mighty, but like a majority of my tattoos have like a function of
Yeah.
something that like occurred in life that's like some sort of like remembrance
Yeah.
that is also like everything has like two sides. So like things can be just the beauty,
Mhm.
but I think sometimes it's important in terms of like not ending up hating something later on.
Yeah. I'm so surprised how many ready-made tattoos I see in the
Yeah.
ready-made sleeves.
Yeah,
It's really
that's
crazy.
something that changed, right? Like
Yeah.
you know, like 2000 when, like, and I'm still like. Again, like I'm sounding holier than thou,
What?
but
What
you know, like I've
happened?
got like small pieces and it built sleeves up over time, like
Yeah.
over you know a period of fucking like 15 years, where a lot of kids that I noticed, you know, around my age, you
Yeah.
know, at the time, were just filling up their arms with like Japanese traditional tattoos,
That's
just
one
so
of the
that
things
they
I was
could
referring to.
yeah, just so that they could fill up. And
Yeah.
of course, you know, that's external. It looks like they're just trying to fill up their arm, which I know, you know, part of it could be that. But at the same time, they could have their own personal reasons that they could attach to things.
Perhaps they
Po-
do.
even
I hope
afterwards.
that they do.
No, yeah, right. I assume it probably has to happen.
Yeah,
But I'm, you know, there's a lot of bullshit out there.
there is.
But I mean, to each their own. If they want, if that's what they feel like they need.
Yeah, it just gives us something to talk shit about.
I know.
Right?
Right.
Speaking of forethought, I have been recently thinking a lot about getting one small tattoo based on forethought and only. I just want some kind of small reminder that I have to look at to think before I talk. I have a
Yeah,
really hot temper, and it oftentimes just, that's one of the things my Instagram name refers to. I feel like I'm always regretting some dumb shit that I said or something I overreacted to, and it's always a flash, and then I go back to being myself, and
Yeah.
I'd like something to remind me to stop.
That's interesting you bring that up. I have a number of things that I'll post like in the internet world that I'll only leave up for a certain period of
I
time.
do too.
Because it's in that emotional there's something to be said about the addiction to that adrenaline dump that comes from that.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of that is what leads people to, maybe people like you and I, to act on that adrenaline.
Yeah.
Or like act as a way to, and I don't think it's like a conscious thought. I think it's more a subconscious sort of thing. But there is like, I actually really like feeling uncomfortable.
Okay.
I do. And it's not that like, it's not that I like and I don't mean in like a social way per se, like that I feel like an outcast, uncomfortable, but I like the idea of
You like to challenge your own comfort zones?
yeah, and I think like speaking out against somebody else's like a common group opinion sort of forces one to sort of act out in a way, even if you don't necessarily like. Sometimes, like I'll argue with people just because they have bold opinions.
Yeah, me too.
I might even agree with some of what they say.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes I'll go challenge to get that excitement. I think a lot of times it might just be to not be bored.
Yeah, I was going to say I post things for a short amount of time sometimes just because I feel like interacting with people for a bit. So I'll put something up there, see who responds, chat with people a little, and then take it down. I'm not really comfortable either with having a tremendous Instagram portfolio for people to go through. It just makes me feel weird. I don't want people to feel
you
that
got
they
some
can,
space.
Yeah, but I filter quite a bit of it
Yeah.
out as well, just because, first of all, I don't want someone to see me when I set up a tremendous amount of work and feel like they've seen it all already. So I don't want anyone to find my stuff and be able to go through all of it digitally, and also just, I don't know, it makes me feel weird to have too much up there to go through.
That's something I've never really been concerned about.
Yeah.
And I think that's another like one of those like sort of business angles.
Well, you've never been concerned about having your entire portfolio online?
Yeah, I don't mind at all. In fact, as soon as something gets done, I want it up and like into the world like right away.
I really enjoy getting the instant reaction and knowing how people feel about it right away, but I don't like that I've shown work where people have seen it online, even friends of mine, they're not really interested in then seeing it face to face. They're just like, oh yeah, I saw that one. And
I think
I feel that it takes away for people, because like we were talking about earlier, I think we're getting to a place where the two-dimensional is more real than the three-dimensional to people.
Yeah.
So for a lot of people, if they've seen it on the internet, they've seen it.
Yeah.
And so,
But at the same time, the flip side of that coin, I also appreciate when somebody sees something that they only saw online and their opinion completely changes.
Yeah.
So like, like size perspective is often,
I love that.
it's like sometimes you'll think it's a little painting and it's a humongous,
and it's giant size
or you think it's a huge painting and it's a little tiny painting.
Yeah.
And that kind of creates a little bit of excitement as well.
I like that too.
If you're going to intertwine into both sort of worlds.
Yeah.
And I think part of my personal opinion is the fact that not everybody gets to see the things in person.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes the idea of the gallery walls being more important than some other sort of venue is something that's starting to change.
Yeah.
Because I mean, before it was like you were seeing stuff in magazines. Of course, well afterwards. I've been the type who was never interested in surprises.
Okay, yeah.
So like I would, if it was Christmas time, I was talking my way into opening the gifts that were just sitting under the tree. I never saw a point of waiting for something. If there's gratification right there, there's no sense in not just obtaining that gratification right away.
Totally.
So I think part of my comfortableness with doing, like just putting, even like doing, over the last couple of years, I've done a lot of progress stuff, like in progress work. And I see a lot of artists like talk shit about like, it's almost like you're showing the secrets. It's like the magicians.
I love seeing people's progress shots.
I do too. Yeah. And I think part of that's something that we don't get to see because everything's prior to the last 10 years has been sort of done in secret or, not not on purpose, but just in the nature of how
Yeah, you
things are
didn't
done.
have access to an artist's
Yeah.
interior life.
And so now, like this, it is a weird double-edged sword. Like getting to know people in a certain way.
Yeah.
Again, a curated sort of like, and if we're going through and like
Yeah.
nitpicking our own self, like
Mhm.
sometimes I go clean up like my Twitter feed sometimes,
Yeah.
but it's usually like I go and like delete like ats like
Mhm.
or like responses to things, and I'll like
Yeah.
clean it up so it just looks like all my opinion.
Yeah.
But and then sometimes like, of course, make a typo. I did like I think
Hard
my
not
last
to.
3 things I had to like go and like take commas out, or I so over comma. My grammar is terrible.
Grammar is hard on these little tiny devices. I hate it.
Can I use that as an excuse
Yes,
for
of
my bad
course.
grammar?
Mhm.
English was never a good subject for me.
Mm.
I know all the words.
Yeah. That's.
Yeah.
I think it's
I can read
becoming-
really well,
In all honesty, it's,
whatever that means.
it's becoming obsolete anyway. If you were really into grammar, you would just be irritated and holding on to something. That's
I know, right?
No longer
Like, what's all the rules
valued.
for?
I don't know.
Let's just keep it real.
Yeah, I think so. I
All
think
these
as long
fucking
as
rules.
in a lot of ways, it can just be a method for people to judge other people and call them stupid for not being educated on a whole stupid set of rules that they don't
Yeah,
have.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it doesn't necessarily show intelligence as much as it does just something you learned.
I know. I think of all the people with degrees that are just dumb fucks.
Absolutely. And incapable of thinking for themselves, which, what does
Yeah.
that do you?
Which, again, it's like that's sort of the challenge, right? Like
Yeah.
challenging people who don't think for themselves. And not so much in that they do it on purpose, but there's just, like a path of least resistance
Mhm.
sort of feeling. Sometimes you put that resistance out there and it's
Yeah.
it comes back to haunt you sometimes. Or it becomes like a little bit of a pressure, right?
Yeah.
Or that guilt that comes in a little, like you're like, fuck, I probably could have dealt with that better.
Oh, I have a lot of guilt.
I know. Were you raised Catholic?
I was.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably a big. I always say that's the first step to becoming an atheist.
Yeah. I think I'm agnostic.
Yeah, well, that's
If I
that's
need a
what comes
fancy
after
word for
atheism.
what I am.
No, that's what
Yeah.
it goes. Catholic. You raise Catholic. You defy God at some point, usually by finding biology.
Mhm.
Once you find biology, you become an atheist because you're like, nothing is anything.
Nothing makes any fucking sense.
Then you realize that atheism in and of itself is a religion, in that
It's another dogmatic belief system.
yeah, you're only basing your belief on the disbelief of somebody else's belief.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like attached to the empirical God because
Totally.
you're attached to saying that it doesn't exist.
And it's still the same silly idea that I'm this tiny thing and I think I understand everything, or I think that I'm
Yeah.
capable of understanding how everything works.
Which then the next step is Buddhism. Then from Buddhism there's this sort of agnosticism that comes in sort of Buddhism principle.
Mm-hmm.
But there is, of course, dogmatic and sort of deity-based stories and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But the sort of base structure leads into agnosticism. And you realize, like, what the fuck? I don't know shit.
Yeah.
And then, actually, somewhere in between those spots is physics. Physics might lead
Physics
more
I
into
enjoy very much,
agnosticism than, like,
yeah.
it's Buddhism and physics sort of swirling around together.
Totally. I agree.
Did I lay it out properly?
I think
Do you
so.
find-
Were
yeah.
you raised Catholic, or you just
Yeah,
said, oh,
yeah.
okay, so you know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
This
I know the
isn't-
drill. In
Okay.
fact, I went to some MMA fights up in Escondido on this like horse farm.
Okay.
The wind blew and it just smelled like manure, like an outdoor MMA fight. It was amateurs and pros, but I was there to watch my buddy fight in the amateur fight. Very crazy. But I went in one of the porta potties there, and as soon as I stepped in, it completely reminded me of
Confession?
Confession?
Really?
Like
Because
the-
it smells like shit?
well, it was horrible, but it also like the little like vent, like the window things
Yeah.
around the tops of the portable. I was like, hey, portables are kind of like confession. Like,
I'm terrified of porta potties. I despise them. I would so much rather pee in a bush, and it makes me so angry that I can't pee in a bush, and anyone's dog can pee in a bush, and I have to go in there and pee on top of someone's poop, which I'm terrified of. I can't do it.
I had to pee outside in North Park this weekend.
Yeah.
I couldn't make it from the drive back to the house.
Guys, it's easy though.
I know.
Just face a wall or face a corner and
Yeah.
you're good to go. Yeah.
It still feels like you're doing something wrong though. Like like I peed in somebody's like parking lot. You know, like
yeah.
if somebody has to smell it later, like if it smells like beer and it stinks like piss, like I'm kind of doing a little bit of harm to somebody in some way.
But I don't know that human pee smells any worse than dog pee, and no one thinks it's terrible that dogs pee all over the place or cats.
Yeah, we all gotta pee.
It's only fair. Yeah, we have to pee.
I think you can get in some serious trouble for.
You can get a big ticket, and it's upsetting.
I think you can even get like sex crime. Like
for exposing yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's awful.
I feel like somebody that I know had something similar. Like they were peeing it like on a trolley line or something, and.
Oh, that's terrible. Because there are so many places, like you can be downtown, say San Francisco or New York City, where no one will all the bathrooms say out of order, even though they're not, and no one will let you use the restroom anywhere, and it's inhumane. What are you supposed to do? Yeah,
I think we have a spot downtown that is like
a fully public.
Yeah,
I hope so. I don't know of it.
It's something we don't ever talk about on the show, like the accessibility to, and obviously that's a real issue because. You have to that's so bad for the homeless, like to have to deal, like that's San Francisco, people just shit on the street.
Yeah.
You're not, I was in the Mission for my last show. Spotless, clean, like totally safe feeling.
Yeah.
Which felt bad. It didn't feel very good. But it felt okay.
Sterile.
Yeah. It was very strange. Totally different there.
Yeah.
You were just up there, no? Or a while ago?
No, yeah, I have a friend that lives up there, so I visit sometimes.
You posted something on Instagram, so it's like it just happened,
right?
Oh,
yeah, so you know where I was? That was in February, I think.
Okay.
So a while back.
I see you do like post some graffiti stuff. You got graffiti friends? Do you have like graffiti influence?
Yeah.
I saw you painted something big outdoors recently.
I did. I painted with Carly Ely down at the Maker's Quarter. That was really fun.
She's been on the show?
She's awesome. I had the show at Low Gallery with her, which was how I met her.
Right.
And then
which I think was the first time I saw your work in person, actually.
Awesome. That was one of the first shows I really had like that. That was really fun to do.
Yeah.
I liked it.
They just had their 1-year anniversary over there.
I missed it.
I went over and made an appearance.
Awesome. The show
I did their very
first
first show.
Post. Rad. It's a cute spot. I like it a lot.
Yeah, they're selling work too. It's good.
It's awesome.
I knew Megan when she used to run Magpie.
I don't know.
In South Park, a while ago. But she moved and then moved back.
Before or after the woman with the short black hair ran it? Because Magpie was next to Citizen Video, right?
Yes.
I worked there.
At Citizen Video?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was her. That was Megan and her husband.
Oh, okay.
Right? I'm saying the right name to the. Yeah, it was like a taco shop, then the little video store.
Yeah.
Then her little shop. Yeah, that was her. She might have had black hair back then.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right. I think maybe someone else owned it and then she owned it.
That could be.
Yeah, I think I worked there when there was a different owner. I don't think I met Megan until I had a show at her spot.
Yeah. Well, I knew her from whenever that very well could happen.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But yeah, so Carly, Carly's with Chris Konecki, who is he's in charge of who gets to paint that amazing space down there, and so she asked me if I wanted to paint with her, and I did. It was so fun, and I've hung out with graffiti writers for years. I draw all over shit, but I really don't dabble in spray paint because it's an expensive sport, and I don't have that kind of expendable income. But that was really fun.
Does that become part of your medium as well, like the availability of materials?
Oh, yeah, and I like that. I like the interplay of what I can get my hands on, and it does a lot if you've seen a little bit of the portraiture that I do that's more layered, mixed fabrics. Mm-hmm. That's always, just a collaboration with what I'm able to find. I was really enjoying those pieces that you're incorporating, like textured or like printed fabrics into the work. And I assume you're sewing those pieces in and then drawing over the top, or vice versa. Yeah, they're sewing in as I go. It's fun. It's a lot more time consuming than my drawings, of course. And it's funny, like for me as a painter, I think of everything in that sort of aspect, like how I would fill something in is completely different. I guess you have to work sort of in a collage, sort of aesthetic, even though I wouldn't categorize it as such, but
you got to cut all your pieces and put them into place.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of cutting them as I go.
I'm really
sewing
the
them
way
in.
you're able to move around and make line drawings like pretty accurate to size and dimension. Like it seems like a very difficult process.
It was a lot of practice.
Yeah.
When I first
A lot
started
of
doing
hours.
it, when I describe it to people, when I first started, you ever play with one of those like novelty pencils that's gigantic?
Uh-huh.
My drawings look like I was working
Yeah.
with one of those for a long time. But like I was saying earlier, from the pretty much the first day I started doing it, I got really addicted, which is I have an addictive personality and
Yeah.
it worked in my favor. So I was doing it like 8 to 10 hours a day, every day for a while. And that's how I managed to be able to get it to look how I wanted to. I almost became a hunchback in the process. I had a doctor tell me that the top of my spine was flattening out, so I
Oh,
don't
no.
sew as often as I used to, or at
Dang, I
least in
think
the
that might be happening.
block hours that I used to. Yeah, as we both sit up straighter.
Everything goes like crack, crack, crack,
Yeah.
crack, crack.
But it took a while.
Yeah, I can imagine because I look at it and make all sorts of assumptions on how things are done. Of
Yeah,
course,
of course.
I imagine you have to be able to go back and forth over a line more than once.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
that
Mhm.
so you got to be able to trace back over the
Yeah.
area that you just went.
Mhm.
See, something like that seems incredibly difficult.
Well,
Like in
it's-
terms of like how you have to. It's a different set of muscle movements,
yeah,
huh?
it's really tight, so it's like this.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Do you get a lot of shoulder problems?
I get a lot
like,
of shoulder
like
problems.
the muscles and like collarbone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when I was doing it for that many hours every day, I would get neck pains where then I couldn't move my neck for 3 days, and I would just sit on the couch and read books.
You ever go to the
and sketch.
chiropractor?
No, I have never.
I tell you what, I used to get a lot of pinched nerves, like
Mhm.
in between my shoulder blades,
Mhm.
which is about where I hunch over at, like,
Mm-hmm.
and I keep my shoulders like tucked tight
Yeah.
up to my ears, and it's a similar thing, except I'm just trying to keep everything still except for like the rotation of my wrist
Yeah.
or whatever. But when I started training jiu-jitsu, I was getting more and more pinched nerves because I was folding up over, getting my neck tweaked and
Yeah.
like my spine was moving in a different way that it wasn't used to.
Mhm.
And so the vertebrae were just getting a little bit out of alignment and pinching the nerves and just
Getting
causing
bashed around. Yeah.
Dude, it would be so bad. Like I couldn't get out of bed. Like
Ugh.
I couldn't like use any of the muscles to like pull my
Aw.
back up.
That's awful.
And of course, my abs weren't as great as they are right now. My ab.
Yeah.
And so I was like, "Fuck it, I got to try to do something."
Yeah.
And there's a chiropractor right up the street who it was just only $19
Oh, that's
to get an
amazing.
alignment. And I'll tell you what, it like changed everything.
Rad. I had Carly tell me the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just your spine just gets a little bit out of alignment and ends up causing, people will talk about like energy flows and that sort of shit. I don't know what that necessarily means or what all the science is there or what people are talking about necessarily, but
Yeah.
there seems to be some sort of truth to what people are talking about in terms of like how if one part of the system is a little bit out of whack that it has an
Everything gets thrown
effect on
off.
other
Yeah.
things, So I found I was walking one day and I saw myself in like a reflective mirror
Mm-hmm.
and I was like my ass was like sticking like really far out.
You're
You know?
like Daffy Duck in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
yeah, totally. So bad. I'm waddling with like the
Yeah.
little And I was like, that's not fucking right. Like, it seems like my back was like arched all the way in. I was
Yeah.
like, my shit is fucked up. So, like that week, I went. I was like, I gotta fucking figure this out.
Yeah.
I walked by the same reflective mirror the day after, and noticed a complete different posture.
Oh, nice.
In that, just like, we get to like for me, my feet will get off. Like one will be longer than one leg will be longer than the other. But it's not so much that my legs are longer than the other.
Mhm.
It's that my right hip will start to like
Oh.
pull back.
Okay.
Partly like how I sit. When I
Mhm.
sit in the chair, I always have my foot tucked up underneath my leg.
Me too.
And it's that like to get everything like solid, like just like how like, if you had one foot down now, it'd be just like that.
I sew with my right leg, obviously, on my pedal, and I try to not do it now because I've started to have a lot of numbness in my left calf because I wrap really tightly my left leg around the leg of the chair
Uh-huh.
with the chair bashing into my leg. Now I have to try not to do it because I think I was doing some nerve damage.
Well, I sit with this one tucked up underneath my other leg, and now it's super beneficial for jiu-jitsu because
nice.
it's way flexible.
Yeah.
So my right leg, I could almost like put it up behind my head.
Oh, that's rad.
My left leg barely moves at all. It's like I have just like a piece of timber attached to it, like a
funny.
peg leg. It barely moves. But there are certain moves in jiu-jitsu that you really need to be able to, like, to be able to put your foot like against your forehead, like pull it that far. And I could easily do it with that one just from drawing all the time.
Do you balance in any yoga to stay?
I tried it a little bit. I got too bored with it. Like, I really appreciated the breathing aspects of it. Like, learning how to breathe properly was
nice.
very, because my sinuses are all fucked up, so all the time. And so, like, I could barely breathe out of my nose. Like, it just occasionally, like, one nostril would be open enough to be able to breathe.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely not utilizing my lungs at their best, at full capacity. And I learned, like, the way, like, the different, like, breathing in the chest, breathing in the stomach, like, breathing in the middle.
And it's really calming and centering.
Yeah,
well.
I found that when I'm in panic mode, in jiu-jitsu specifically, that, like, doing that will allow me to, like, and I think it helps me get the oxygen back into the blood, or like, of course it calms me down if I'm in like a panic spot.
Yeah.
But it like makes me like get my energy back as well, which I found super beneficial.
Yeah.
But at the end of it, every time I was like, okay, do we get a roll now? Do we get a like fight?
Yeah.
At the end, we never got to.
Have you ever tried Bikram? You might like that. It's definitely not boring, and it's yoga. It's intense.
It's not so much that I found it very difficult.
Okay.
I don't mean boring in that like it was simple. It was hard to do. It was like a real good workout.
Yeah.
I just I found myself wanting more somehow, like more entertainment value.
Yeah, I understand.
But not. I think it's great. Like I use the stretches a lot. Like a few of the positions were. Like my hip flexors are always really tight, so it's nice to fucking loosen them up with some of that stuff. Just doing it for 1 hour, like, just ended up. In fact, my jiu-jitsu teacher teaches yoga too.
Oh, rad.
Yeah, so he was running a class for a while, but I took it for a bit, but I ended up stopping just because I wanted to do other things.
Yeah,
but it's good. It definitely has.
I like it.
Benefits. I would like to be more flexible in the left leg, but at this point, I think I'm tightened up pretty well.
Can you switch? Are you able to paint with the other leg?
I've tried it.
It doesn't work.
No, it's like
it's
instant
hard
pain and I don't have the same like platform.
Yeah.
It's something about having like a steady base, like more of a platformed base to sit in and like to like square up and.
It's hard to change the way you do things too, because I'm trying to help my posture. I try to draw at a desk and I can't do it. I draw in a ball on the couch. That's how I've always drawn, and it's so hard for me to sit at a desk and draw.
I used to draw on the floor all the time.
Minutes. That's fun.
Laying down flat on the floor.
Yeah.
That starts to fuck with the shoulders too.
But
that's like little kid style, and I think I kept
it.
that for a long time.
I love to work on the floor, and only now in my new shop, I don't do it because I have cockroaches, and every time I try to do something on the floor, a cockroach crawls at me, so I can't get into the right headspace because I'm on guard.
That's I'll paint down on all fours sometimes too. Like
I love to work on the floor.
Yeah.
I also love to sit on the floor. If I go to someone's house, I'm usually on the floor.
Do you like the womb chair? The womb chair is pretty nice, right?
I do. It's really nice. It's cozy.
So since we just recently met, you also invited me to do a piece for the Dirty Show.
Yes.
Dirty Filthy Dirty.
Dirty Filthy Show. I'm excited about that.
At La Bodega, coming up here in a couple weeks.
Yeah,
now.
October 18th.
Yeah,
one
few
night
weeks.
only, which will be really fun. I'm excited.
This is the second one you've done, right?
Mm-hmm.
The
first one I didn't curate. This is the first one that I'm curating. And
but you
show that
did
I'm curating,
you did
so
some
I'm excited.
pieces.
I did. The last one that we had, I had done all these very dirty paintings, and I had nowhere to show them. So I think Chris kind of put together the first one for that, but he was in charge of inviting artists, and I came to set up my work, and people were turning in work that wasn't that dirty, and me being myself and having no filter, I was just like, these aren't fucking dirty enough. Tell these people to take these paintings home. And he's laughing, saying, I know, they're not dirty enough. I don't know why these people are just turning in boobs or whatnot.
Yeah.
And so he asked me if I wanted to curate the next one with him, and I excitedly said yes and started pestering all my friends to do pieces for it. Yeah.
So, who you got a bunch of like the local San Diego
For this one, yeah.
folks,
I have pretty much all of my favorite San Diego artists lined up. I'm really excited about it.
So I've been thinking like hard, like trying to figure out what the fuck am I going to do.
Me too, because I just did it 3 months ago.
Really, it was only,
and I didn't do pieces specifically for it. It was work that I already had that had nowhere to display, and now being put on the spot and knowing also this one's a little bit of a competition because we're doing a prize for the dirtiest one and we're all in it to kind of outdo each other.
Yeah,
I really froze up at first. Now I figured out what I'm gonna do.
You got your shit.
Yeah.
So let's explain. So there's a door charge to get. It was $1 to get in.
There's going to be $1 door charge to get in. You're going to get a ticket in exchange for your $1, and you're going to vote with your ticket for what you think is the dirtiest piece. And so you're going to put your $1 into a giant cartoon money bag when you come into the door to the person who's running the door, and then the piece that has the most tickets is that artist is going to go home with a giant cartoon bag full of money and either go to the strip club or go buy a couple $100 worth of groceries in ones or whatever they're going to do with it.
So herein lies the dilemma.
Yes.
So as somebody who's a gambler, who likes to deal in logic in some sort of sense of the word, you start to think, okay, what do we do here?
Yeah.
Do we? So, and again, as artists, who show their work to make a living, do you go fully outside of the box, like just as far out into outer space as you can go, knowing that it's unlikely that maybe something of that extreme nature will be most likely? There's a chance of it being unsellable.
Yeah.
It's a very good chance.
Absolutely.
Which is always a chance with anything that you do, of course. But when you have a particular thing like this that we're talking about, it could be even more difficult.
Absolutely.
Which is something that somebody was just talking about, themed group shows, but things that are like promoting a movie or like.
I think we've all talked about this. I'm sure you have, and every other artist I know, you've been involved in several group shows where you do a piece that you put a lot of time into because you're showing with a lot of other good artists and you want to show up, but it's something that you don't really have a personal connection to, and afterwards it doesn't fit in with your work. You have nothing to do with it, and it just sits in your closet. Yeah.
And so that's definitely one of the angles, because I'm sure, in this day and age, we're all short of time. Like, we're working, like you said, like work is pretty much nonstop. It's just, going for it. So one has to ask themselves, do I make something off the fucking wall? Which is enticing.
Yes.
Because there's a little bit of freedom to that, in that you could just be fucking super weird.
Yeah.
B, do you make something that's sexually explicit to a certain, and we'll get into that as well, because that definition now has become very watered down.
Yeah.
That is sellable, that may also win you the door prize. Because, if you make something nice, it might draw enough attention just in being a nice piece that it also gets the votes, because that's enticing to somebody.
Naturally pick just their favorite thing. Yeah.
Right. C, do you make something that could maybe sell?
I think I thought along all of these lines myself when I was thinking about it, and I was coming up with all of these ideas that were outlandish that would shock and disgust people, but then I just felt, well, that's not really me, and also I don't want to make people hate me.
And then you're also being judgmental, right? Because if you're doing something that we're perceiving as disgusting or like vulgar or these like sort of negative connotations, are we sort of putting that thing down and like making it seem like it is a taboo and should be kept as such? Because I came up with some gross shit, and then I was like, well, what if there's a person out there who is that thing that like I'm describing, and that's where their sexuality lies?
Well, then it depends how you go about doing the piece, because that piece might appeal to that person. They might finally find something that they like.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah. I went through all that, and then I was getting a little anxious about it and just thinking, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do for this show. And then I realized I'm just going to do something personal. So I'm doing something personal.
That was sort of where I led to.
Yeah.
Like this idea that, okay, so we're in this modern porn age
Yes.
where taboos that were taboos, let's say 15 years ago, are no longer as such.
Yeah.
I've heard people refer to us being in like the anal age, where like anal sex on screen is such commonplace, whereas if you looked 15 years ago at porn, it was more like the rarity.
Yeah.
And not saying that one should be either,
Yeah.
but in looking at it in context of what is now more socially acceptable, which I say that there's a benefit to that. Of course, there's always like some negative connotations that come along with those things. When trying to come up with an idea for the show, it's like, okay, what is dirty?
Yeah.
Like, what is dirty? And part of me thought self-exposure is maybe the most taboo, because just showing, like, let's say I did a portrait of some porn star or something, it's not as personal. It doesn't have as much value in terms of being something dirty, because it's something that's like an everyday for him or her.
Yeah.
Anybody could find it. It's not. It's commonplace. In that grouping of people. But for people who aren't in porn, and it's funny, like there was just a bunch of celebrity leaked nudes, and we're in this day and age where people are sharing themselves, like who they are.
Yeah.
In their,
I think it's good for their publicity and whatnot, right?
Well, that too. Like again, back with the disinformation, like the way things work. But on some level, I think it's important that people are becoming less self-conscious of their body, because we're coming out of this sort of puritanical, like religious rite where your body is thought to be like this den of sin, and you're supposed, particularly in our, United States Western culture, like there's a tendency to shy away from sexual behaviors or even the expression. We see it with like people like Miley Cyrus, who as soon as she becomes an adult and starts to express her sexuality, there's some weird like turning on people.
Oh yeah.
And I think a lot of that comes from other people's insecurities about things.
I think so.
But I think this idea of self-exposure in this type of environment might be the idea of dirty that I think maybe encapsulates the show.
Also, I think that a man exposing himself is far dirtier than a woman exposing
herself.
herself.
Which is an interesting thing that I talk about a lot, particularly in art.
Yeah.
They just had a show at Low Gallery that there was a lot of penis exposure on the little sculptures.
There's not enough penis out there in art or film or anything, I think.
And there's a lot of reasons for that, right? Like in terms, I think that a lot of times it's seen as aggressive. I think that a lot of times, like let's say in film, I think there's nudity in film all the time. There's women's breasts all the time.
All the time.
There's very rarely penises in films.
I know.
And whenever one shows up, it's like there's a penis in the film.
And you're shocked.
Have you seen Nymphomaniac?
Yes.
There's a lot of penises in Nymphomaniac. Oh yeah, did we discuss that you didn't like the film, huh?
No, I don't think we talked about it. I liked it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think there's self-consciousness that exists for men, and like the size of their penis is like a real issue for.
Well, and there should be, because there's so much self-consciousness involved with women, because we're constantly presented with these perfect images of naked women.
You know what?
I think you guys should be subjected to the same thing, honestly.
But isn't that's something that I find funny from particularly like feminist groups? I love when I hear a feminist call somebody like a small dick like when they use that like a bot, because it
Yeah.
ends up being body shaming.
Yes.
And I think,
It is
you
body
know,
shaming. That's a good
particularly
point.
for people who maybe aren't like misogynistic type assholes who
Yes.
maybe are self-conscious about themselves because they see these like this perception from women in a particular way,
Yeah.
that there's a lot of fear from men about how they're going to be judged, or like that it's some sort of
Absolutely.
stature, like how like much of a man you are. Like that's been
Totally.
something forever, right?
Forever, yeah.
And so that's a taboo for, I think, for some people,
Yeah.
you know.
Absolutely.
So
and it's
like that's
tied
something
into
interesting.
Penis size and penis in general is tied into everything.
Yeah, it's very
there's
strange.
a reason rockets and bullets and everything are
Yeah,
penis shaped.
yeah. Obelisks
Yeah.
and shit. Yeah, and it's so like I think that's an interesting angle to take.
Yeah, I think so too.
But again, like anything, could be misconstrued.
Yeah.
There could definitely be like a view of narcissism, like a self-love
Yeah.
sort of thing. Which I think the idea of showing masturbation in a context like this is another interesting sort of angle.
That's what all of my pieces in the last show were.
All masturbation.
All female masturbation.
Yeah. I think that sort of self-exposure is, and the self-gratification of it is an interesting angle to take for a show like this.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things that would just be like too kitschy or too obvious.
Absolutely. Yeah,
But
and we've had to put that disclaimer out. If people come up with something and it's just too banal or it's too easy, it's not gonna hang.
Yeah, it's a weird fine line.
Yeah.
If you're not like really like examining
Yeah.
it, you know,
I just
in
hope that
context
everyone-
of the rest of society.
Yeah, but I think that we all have all of this weirdness wrapped up in our sexuality that we keep to ourselves. So I hope that people do use it as an outlet to have one chance to put some of their weirdness into it.
I'm so stressed out about it.
Don't be stressed out. I'm sure whatever you do is going to be great.
Yeah. But now, like it feels like what you're saying. Like here's an opportunity to maybe do something that doesn't fit into
Yeah.
the rest of the things that you do. But
But you still have to do something that you like. I'm not telling you
No.
you have to, but as anyone,
Of course.
you know, you don't want to do something that you don't
And
like or that
it's-
you don't feel connected to at all.
it's so subjective. Like,
Yeah.
let's say somebody who's in the show, like maybe they've only had one partner their entire life and have a very sort of secluded idea of
I have
sexual
invited
relationships.
someone who that's the case for.
Yeah, so like for them, their angle might be completely different than
Totally.
you know.
And I would hope so.
Yeah, but there's no other way.
Yeah.
But do you
And-
feel like so would you still be like have to be judgmental with them? Like so like if like boobs were like really a big deal to somebody,
Yeah, that's true.
you
That
know,
would be
because we're
hard.
putting our own sort of spin on what
Yeah.
what is and isn't
Totally.
taboo. I keep using the word taboo because
Yeah.
it seems like the
It's
sort of-
fitting, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I know that's hard. You don't want to tell someone else, well, your version of dirty isn't dirty, but
Yeah, like if you had a virgin who has never had a sexual experience
yeah,
and asked them to make something,
yeah.
of course it's going to be like some type of
I know.
fantasy thing, but it might be something totally different.
I know, and I've had some people tell me that they want to be in the show and express interest, and there are people whose work I really like, but I'm just a little weary thinking to myself, well, I know you, and I'm very familiar with your work, and I don't know that this is necessarily going to be a good fit for you, or that you're going to come there with me. And,
But I mean, that's part of the deal with being a curator
yeah.
on some aspects. You got to kind of
Totally, and there's
filter.
an illustrator that I love that I really wanted to be in the show that he said he didn't feel like he could do anything for it, and I respect that. I was very disappointed.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
not everybody wants to express that, or
And
how's
I
that
do
waiting to
think
get out?
I think it's difficult for a lot of people.
I think so.
Because I'm sure I guarantee you that a lot of people will do stuff that's maybe in the vulgar
Yeah,
thing, but it might not be that personal.
yeah. Well,
I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm making a broad judgment.
yeah, but I think anything that you come up with is going to be in
Has to.
some way personal.
Yeah.
It's going to lead back to something.
It's interesting. I'm interested to see how. So
I'm
what?
really interested to see what people come
Oh
up
my
with.
lord! October
I'm
18th.
excited, yes.
La Bodega.
La Bodega from 6 to 10, one night only, so it'll only hang for that night, and then it's got to come down. The last show we had a piece up that a friend of mine did a long time ago. It was not scheduled to be in the show, but I put it up in the last minute. And some woman who worked at the taco shop next door didn't go to work for 3 days because it was offending her so much.
that might be better than the door prize, than the selling or like having a piece that
he
works.
didn't make a piece for that show, and I'm pressuring him so hard to make one for this one. I keep begging him.
Rad. All right, well let's get people. What's your we'll put your Instagram out again.
Okay, Rachmones, RACHMONES.
Rach Monet.
Yes, my name is not Rachel.
Jaclyn, it was a pleasure to get to know you a little bit better. Thank you for coming over and chatting with us. Hopefully that beginning work is all still there. Hopefully I looked down right when it went off and I have it right to the edge.
We'll have to see what happens.
But we got an hour. We got an hour 10 in after that, so
that was fun.
There's plenty of blabbing.
Yeah.
All right, let's do real life dap. Bang.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.